You are looking at one of the most shocking images that has ever been captured in space, and it is revealing the truth about Mercury's violent past. NASA recently made an astounding discovery about our closest planet to the Sun that will forever change what we think about this small rocky world. It was thought to be an ordinary planet until now. The shocking truth about Mercury's metal ejections into space. Mercury is the smallest planet in our solar system, but it has a big personality. It's incredibly hot, covered in craters, and has a very unusual orbit. Some people say that Mercury is the most bizarre planet in our solar system. It's so strange that if we didn't know it was real, we would think that it's fake. But it's not fake. This is what Mercury really looks like. There are no filters or Photoshop needed. But there is something that scientists are noticing that they cannot explain. It's happening right now, and it's totally unexpected. According to experts from NASA, Mercury is vomiting metals into space. But how could this be possible? Let's find out the shocking details in today's episode of Incredible Space Facts. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any new episodes. What is Mercury made of? You might think that Mercury is just a small rocky ball, but it's actually much more complex than that. The planet is mostly made up of iron, which is unusual because most rocky planets have a core made of iron. The fact that Mercury's core is so big makes it very dense. In fact, Mercury is the densest planet in the solar system. If you were to compare its density to Earth's density, you would see that Mercury is 5 times denser than our home planet. That's pretty impressive. In addition to being dense, Mercury also has a very thin atmosphere. In fact, it has almost no atmosphere at all. This is another thing that makes Mercury very unique, because most planets in the solar system have a thick atmosphere. So why doesn't Mercury have an atmosphere? Scientists believe that Mercury lost its atmosphere a long time ago. The sun's radiation stripped away the planet's atmosphere, leaving it with only a few molecules. So if you tried to breathe on Mercury, you would suffocate. Another interesting thing about Mercury is that it has no moons. Well, actually, it does have a moon, but it's not like other moons. So close to the sun that the moon gets destroyed by the intense heat and radiation. This means that Mercury is constantly being bombarded by solar wind. The solar wind is a stream of charged particles that flow from the sun. It's always flowing outwards, and it can travel to other planets. However, Mercury is the closest planet to the sun, so it receives the most solar wind. Scientists have been studying Mercury for a long time, and they have been able to learn a lot about the planet. For example, they know that Mercury has a magnetic field. This is surprising because it's the only planet in the solar system without an atmosphere. Usually, a planet needs an atmosphere to have a magnetic field. But Mercury's magnetic field is probably caused by the planet's core. Because Mercury's core is made of iron, it can generate a magnetic field. This protects Mercury from the solar wind to some extent, but it doesn't stop the solar wind completely. One of the things that makes Mercury so unique is that it has a very unusual orbit. It's the only planet in the solar system that has an orbit that is more eccentric than Earth's orbit. This means that Mercury gets very close to the sun sometimes, and then it gets very far away from the sun. At its closest point, Mercury is only 46 million kilometers from the sun. But at its farthest point, it's 70 million kilometers from the sun. This means that Mercury's distance from the sun changes by 24 million kilometers. Because of its unusual orbit, Mercury experiences extreme temperatures. On the side that faces the sun, temperatures can reach 427 degrees Celsius. But on the side that doesn't face the sun, temperatures can drop to negative 180 degrees Celsius. These extreme temperatures cause Mercury to expand and contract, which causes the planet to emit strange sounds. These sounds have been picked up by NASA's Mariner 10 spacecraft, and they sound like this. They are eerie and unsettling, which is fitting for a planet that is so mysterious and strange. Now, let's get back to the main topic. You might be wondering why Mercury is ejecting metals into space. It all has to do with its unusual orbit around the sun. As Mercury orbits the sun, it passes through a region called the magnetosphere. The magnetosphere is a region of space that is controlled by the sun's magnetic field. It's a dynamic and dangerous place where solar winds and cosmic rays collide. This creates a constant bombardment of charged particles that can strip away the atmospheres of planets. However, the magnetosphere is also a place of great energy. When Mercury passes through the magnetosphere, it is bombarded with charged particles that cause the planet to vibrate. These vibrations cause the metal in Mercury's core to boil. This creates a giant pot of molten metal that is constantly churning. and when the molten metal reaches the surface of Mercury, it is ejected into space. This creates a thin layer of metal around Mercury. The metal is mostly sodium and potassium. These are two metals that are found in table salt. Mercury is spewing tens of thousands of tons of metal into space every year. This may not seem like a lot, but it's actually a huge amount. For example, in 2019, scientists detected a massive ejection of sodium from Mercury. This event sent over 3,000 metric tons of sodium into space. It's enough to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool. In fact, scientists have seen dozens of these large ejections in recent years. These ejections are not only interesting to scientists, but they are also dangerous. The metal that is ejected from Mercury can cause problems for spacecraft. For example, in 2014, the European Space Agency's Philae probe landed on a comet. The probe was supposed to land on the comet's surface and take measurements. But the landing was botched, and the probe bounced off the comet's surface. It turns out that the probe had landed in an area that was rich in sodium. Sodium stuck to the probe's solar panels, which caused the probe to malfunction. The probe never recovered, and it eventually died. In addition to causing problems for spacecraft, Mercury's metal ejections can also cause problems for satellites. For example, in 2011, a GPS satellite was hit by a piece of debris. While it was orbiting Mercury, debris was probably a piece of metal that had been ejected from Mercury. The collision caused the satellite to lose altitude, and it had to be deorbited. This was a major setback for the GPS program, because it meant that a new satellite had to be launched. Despite all of the problems that Mercury's metal ejections can cause, they are still fascinating to scientists. They provide a unique opportunity to study the planet's core. By studying the metal that is ejected from Mercury, scientists can learn more about the planet's composition. This information can help scientists better understand Mercury's magnetic field and its ability to withstand the solar wind. So even though Mercury's metal ejections can cause problems for spacecraft and satellites, they are still an important part of the planet's story. Mercury is the smallest planet in the solar system, but it's also one of the most fascinating. Its unusual orbit around the Sun causes the planet to experience extreme temperatures, and it also causes the planet to eject metal into space. These metal ejections create a thin layer of metal around Mercury, and they can also cause problems for spacecraft and satellites. Despite all of the challenges that Mercury presents, it's still a very important planet. It's the closest planet to the Sun, and it's also the fastest planet in the solar system. It takes Mercury 88 days to orbit the Sun, which is the shortest orbital period of any planet. What do you think about Mercury? Is it the most fascinating planet in the solar system? Or is it too weird and unexciting? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching. We hope you learned something new and exciting about space. If you love space as much as we do, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our future videos. Until next time, keep looking up.